All right, we're live. Snap back with T Mac. This is a Southeastern Lion edition. And before we get rolling with this, I want y'all to look down right below me, the new digs right down here. We picked up our first sponsor, Jerry Lane Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the official truck of the 6M Ranch, now the official sponsor of Snapback with T Mac halftime show. Y'all go find them boys over there in Zachary, new dealership, new fancy, shiny dealership. So if you need a new vehicle, 199 Samuel Road in Zachary, 70791, babe. Let's talk about the first half here. I think when we went into that first drive and we went 3 and out, my blood pressure got up a little bit because it looked like we were going to be a little bit stagnant, a little bit stale. And I think as this half got going, we really got in the rhythm. And I think we really saw Nussmeier get to where, not his comfort level, but he looked like he was out there in a 707 in those last 2 drives. And we'll go to the stats here in a little bit, but you look around and you see he divvied the ball all over the offense. So that aspect looked really good. And I think part of that was the tempo. We got to go into a little bit more tempo, a little bit, putting a little bit more stress on the defense. They're not getting quite as much wind in between each plays. And that's where you want to be. Defensively, I mean, we just dominated on defense, what we thought would happen, like our defense has played all year. And it's fun watching those guys fly around. I mean, you look at where we are now, up was 34-35 nothing. That's where you want to be at half. Before we get into talking about some of the negative things, what we want to see this second half, to me, I say Nussmeier's done, unless they just want to get him some more reps to try to work on those stats and everything for him personally. But it's time for him to get ready for Ole Miss. I want to see some guys roll in on that offensive line, because right now you watch and we're struggling a little bit. And I keep talking about in Weston Davis. I want to see somebody else in that spot get a little bit of playing time. Right now, he's the guy sticking out, and that group in general. I tried to watch him. I got out of watching. I watched the offensive line for 20 years. You know, every time I watched a game or watch video, I focused on the offensive line and couldn't take my eyes off anything else. And then the last 12 or 13 years, I've kind of retrained my eyes just to watch formations and watch the game as a fan. And now this game, I tried to go back and watch just the offensive line to see what was going on, because yeah, right now we're up, but we know there are tougher tests coming up with Ole Miss, and we get into SEC play. And then if we have hopes and aspirations of making a run in the playoffs, where do we need to be better? And where we need to be better is running the ball. And there's a lot of things you can point at, but the thing that stuck out to me the most is the speed, the intensity, the tenacity, the violentness that we come off the line of scrimmage as a group. And the offensive line is not great, not where it needs to be. When you can have the most success as an offensive line is where you're stretching guys, you're coming off the ball, and you're making them react to the speed and intensity that you're coming off of, and that's going to create natural running lanes. And I think one of the things that helped that a little bit in the second half is Juwan Johnson. And you can see he's a little bit change of pace. He's kind of one of those guys that's going get it. He's going to get to the mesh point faster. Once he has a ball in his hands, he's going to hit the hole faster. And I think that's going to get our line coming off the ball faster. But they have to have more intensity, knowing that if their first step is extremely fast, their hands, their body, everything's moving one way or another, that defensive line has to react. And in their momentum, that momentum is going to take them out to play. So if we want to make a run, if we want to get better, that's one area that we definitely have to get better in. But I thought the tempo was good. Nussmeier was slinging it around. We got Chris Hilton involved. You could see the frustration on Nussmeier's face. Chris Hilton had the guy beat on a deep post. He knew it. He threw it up, and the defender, all he could do was tackle Chris Hilton, and Nussmeier knew that was a touchdown. And, you know, like all the Tiger fans wanted to see that part of the game get going, and it was just a penalty when that could have been a deep ball touchdown. I'm going to Facebook now, and it feels like so many drops. Jack, you're exactly right, and I was going to get to that. You look at Nussmeier's stats, and I know there were 3 drops that I could think of, but Nussmeier was 19 for 25. So if you add those 3 drops, he didn't miss many passes there, and I can't even think of the ones that and it might have been a throwaway or the ones he missed, but you take those drops out, and that first half for Nussmeier was pretty dadgum good. Heisman type of numbers, what we wanted to see out of Nussmeier. So he was 19 of 25 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. You look at how he spread the ball around. Aaron Anderson had 3 catches for 46. Barry and Brown were getting him more involved with the running game and the passing game, which I love the motions, the speed sweeps, and everything off of that. Brown was 4 for 22. Bauer Sharp 3 for 32. Xavier Thomas 2 for 26. Thomas had a drop. Nick Anderson had a drop. Nick Anderson had 1 catch for 10 yards. Anderson had a touchdown drop. Caleb Jackson and Caden Durham each had one there. David Messina saying that Johnson also stayed outside longer. Look to me, David, you're right. You're exactly right, and that goes back to what I was talking about with putting stress on a defense. If we can get our guys coming off the ball fast, we used to practice all the time. Your first step being flat, and how fast can you run at an angle 5 or 10 yards, and when your back is taking those same steps that your offensive line is taking, and they're coming off with the same intensity at the same angle, that whole defense feels like they got to go that way to where you have to go. And at some point, you get them to where the play is, whether it's a 4-hole play, 6-hole play, then you can take your backside hand, lock on, and run them by, and then the back can put his foot in the ground and get north. So we have to be more intense there coming off the ball. And I think we'll gradually get there. And you can see they're trying to get a back that'll hit the hole a little bit faster and a little bit quicker. And I think Johnson, he's a guy that can definitely do that for us. So in this second half, when the Tigers come out, it'll be interesting to see how they dial it up, what they do with Nuss. Southeastern's going to get the ball coming out of half. I really want to see some guys. We're deep on defense. We know that. We're rolling in a lot of guys on the defensive line. Linebacker not as deep as we were last week because we got a guy down, but we have fresh bodies over there. Our secondary, we know they're studs and they're loaded. But what other young guys or guys with the lack of experience are going to see the field this second half that could be potential stars later on down the road? So I'm anxious to see that. Eccles, our left guard, has struggled at times. You watch Weston Davis, which I talked about earlier. It's not only his intensity or speed he comes off, but his pad level gets a little high. And then when they're running some twists and stunts with the line game, him and the right guard, they're a little bit slow reacting. Everything, the speed of the game has to pick up the intensity, your eyes, your hand placement, your pad level. There needs to be a little bit more sense of urgency from our guys up front if we want to take that next step. And you watch Moore, he's not completely healthy, but he was getting downfield. That was Barry Brown. They're showing it right now, had that touchdown. But that's the next step I want to see us take. And, if we don't make those improvements, and you're not going to make those improvements 100% between tonight in Tiger Stadium against Southeastern and when you go to Oxford and play Ole Miss, but if you have that mindset and the area you need to get better, then you can go get better there. Just the right side, right tackle spot scares me a little bit right now because when you get into SEC play, those elite athletes, those elite pass rushers, the elite D linemen, they're going to be lined up over there, over that guy. And unless something changes, things get magnified when you get into SEC play. And I don't want that to be the case. So I'm interested to see if Weston can make those improvements, or do we have another option? Because right now you watch it too many times, and I hate pointing things out, but everybody asks, how can we get better? What do we need to do as an offense? And at certain times, at this level of play, you got to be held to a standard. Right now, there's certain guys that aren't living up to that standard to make this team or to put this team in a situation to where they want to be. We're where we want to be. We're where we should be in this game against Southeastern. It's 35-0 at half. Need to get out of this game healthy. We already have had one injury on our defensive side. We don't need any more. Need to get into Ole Miss, get into SEC, play healthy. I want to thank y'all for joining in. My man here left me high and dry to go to watch the game with his friends. I don't blame him. It's high school. Set the tone early in the second half. I agree with you, Hitman. You can't go in that locker room and be happy. At this point, this game, I mean, it's pretty much over for the discipline and for the stats, for pride. You put in the work all off season. You don't want to go in and just play one half of ball. You got to come out with the intensity of the second half. And there's going to be some guys that are going to get their first opportunity to come out and shine. Daniel Lewis, Davis's first down of football was 3 years ago, and he just turned 19. Do you feel he needs more time under his belt? Daniel, that's a good point. You know, he's a young guy, and I hate harping on it. He's a young guy, doesn't have a lot of experience. He's going to be a really good player. You could see it, his ability, his body, but the areas he needs to improve in was something we just talked about. So, yes, he's going to be a good player. I would just hate for things to get exposed when we get into SEC play, and those are some areas that he has to get better on. Marty Bruce, are you wrong for that, bro? I wanted to post something, but I couldn't. No, the answer is no. I'm not even going to read that, but the answer is no. I saw that joker winding that horn, and I thought some baby powder flying around somewhere. But TJ Brown, I missed one earlier. The O-line looks weak. I wouldn't say weak. They're just not. They're not playing fast enough. They can play faster. And I think a lot of it is confidence. It's confidence in knowing the scheme, and that was one thing I wanted to talk about earlier. And I didn't learn that. I didn't know this in college, but I think with advancements of technology and how they can watch film and how they can break down things, their anticipation needs to be better. And if you want to get better, you got to put the time in the film room. You got to be able to watch stances. You got to be able to watch alignments. When I got, later on in my career, it wasn't when I was a freshman or sophomore in college, but I started looking at like guys' fingers, how they're got in their stance, where their weight was on their fingers, how their shoe was cocked, how their knee was bent, linebackers, how they were on their toes, if their hands were on their knees or if they were a little bit wider. It was the little things that helped me before the ball was even snapped. And you can anticipate if the linebacker is cheated in that much in his normal alignment, well, I know he's going the other way. Or if he's a little bit tighter, I know he's coming downhill. Well, that tells me if he's coming in the B gap, and I know he's coming in the B gap, then that lineman that's lined up in the B gap, he's going somewhere else. He's going to the A gap. So it's the little things like that, and you can only develop that with experience. Weston Davis is getting valuable experience, but I want to see him make strides each week. And one of the biggest things I want to see him do, and I think he can do better, is strain. He needs to learn to strain his body more and finish with his hands on his defender. And I'm not just pointing out him, and that's everybody up front. We don't strain. We're not straining enough in finishing blocks. When our guy gets off, we're just kind of letting him go, and you got to finish a block with a shove or with a push. So I'm not going to keep going on that. But if we want to have success in the SEC, if we want to go play in Atlanta, Georgia for an SEC championship, we need to make strides in this area. But I also think if Nussmeier can spread the ball around like he's done this game, it's not going to be as easy when you get an SEC play. But with the formations, with the shifts, the motions, if he can spread it around and you give him time in that pocket, you can see what he's going to do. It's going to be like a 7-on-7. So looks like ESPN is coming back to Tiger Stadium right now. Let's watch and see. Guys, we're not going to go on tonight for post game. I'll probably come on tomorrow and have a clip and just talk about the game. Also be watching the Dirty Birds go get it done. So appreciate y'all joining us for the, as I said earlier, the Jerry Lane Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram Snapback with T-Mac halftime show. Go check them out. Samuel Road 19900. Get you a Dodge. How about that? Thank y'all for joining us. Snapback with T-Mac.